Time versus money. I think that's something we've all struggled with at some point or another. We want more time, more freedom to enjoy life and do the things we want to do, spend time with family and friends, but then we need money to pay for it all. Okay, so we've got to sacrifice our time to go make money. And the more money we need and want, the less time we're going to have. Okay, so how do we get that balance right? And that's been a struggle since the Industrial Revolution, at least. That's the motivating force behind so many things. That's the heart of the communist dream. If we all just shared in the fruits of our collective labor, then we would all have more time and freedom instead of it going to the capitalists, which communism just doesn't take into account human nature, therefore it doesn't work. But we all can identify with that sentiment. That's why communism has been so powerful despite it having failed so miserably. That's why it still has such a strong appeal. Okay, and then the homesteading movement, I think that's a big motivating force in that. Okay, yeah, homesteading's a lot of work, but at least we're not just a cog in the corporate machine. Okay, we get a degree of autonomy when we're working a homestead, and freedom with that. Okay, and then minimalism, which I'm actually a huge fan of minimalism, even though it kind of died away with COVID. But with minimalism, it's about recognizing the true cost of stuff, just material things, and not being materialistic and valuing experiences and living life over things. Okay, there's some important stuff there with minimalism. The only problem for me, I've always had this problem with minimalism. I've never been able to rectify this until now. Minimalism doesn't take into account self-sufficiency. Okay, I'm a big believer in self-sufficiency. To be self-sufficient, we need tools. Okay, they're required. That's part of it. And we need the more self-sufficient we are, the more things we do, the more tools we need. And then there's hobbies. Okay, I'm a firm believer in hobbies are one of the great joys of life. We should all have at least one hobby we dearly enjoy. And hopefully it's something productive. Woodworking. Okay, I enjoy that. That's one of my hobbies. Okay, I can make things that I enjoy that are going to last through woodworking. Okay, so I consider it a productive hobby. Hunting and fishing, gardening. That ties in with the self-sufficiency, plus I'm getting something beneficial out of it besides just the experience of doing something I enjoy. Minimalism, I've never been able to rectify that difference there. Okay, but I think I have now. And I'm calling this Material Maximalism. Okay, I can't think of a better name, so we're going with that. And what Material Maximalism is, it's a concept that's been around for who knows how long. And it's, we want stuff. Okay, and that's fine, go get stuff. But get quality stuff that'll last. Okay, and my reasoning for this, okay, and most of us innately value quality things that will last, but I realized, I think, why that is so important, which is, in the case of material things, we only need so many. Okay, and I think that's the balance between minimalism and materialism. Right. Perfect example. Okay, I don't want 100 knives. I want one really good knife and to be able to find it. And it be sharp. It work. And a knife that I value. Okay, that's the minimalism side. All right, the maximum materialist side, or maximum materialism. If I get a good knife, it's going to last me forever. And here's the key to all of that. I only have to buy it once. All right, so get the things we want, but if we get quality things, we only have to buy them one time. Eventually, we have all of the things we want and need, and that's when we can, okay, I don't need the material thing. I don't need new material things. Young couple starting out. They've got kids, they're in their 20s. Okay, they need stuff. They need a house. They need clothes, toys for the kids, everything. They're just starting out. But when they reach 45, 50, assuming everything's went well for them, life has a way of interrupting our bestest plans. But assuming everything went well, they didn't get divorced, there's no major illnesses, when they get to 45 or 50, they have all of the stuff. The kids have left. The house is paid for. They have all of their material needs met. They don't need to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week then. And what made me realize this was for myself. Okay, I've been remodeling a house. For those of you that don't keep up the channel, a little wasp flying around. Anyway, remodeling a house, and something I've been keeping in mind as I've been remodeling is I want my overhead expenses, my cost of living, to be very low when I'm finished. Okay, so I've been doing things like getting 30-year shingles, and my utility bills are going to be very low. That type stuff. Okay, so yeah, I'm spending money now to pay for all I'm doing there, but when I'm done, my expenses are going to be very low, and then it hit me. I'm not going to need to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week anymore. I'll have all of my material wants met. Okay, so I think that's something we just never realize is, okay, with minimalism, we look at it, okay, at this point in time, I don't need many things. I'm going to be a minimalist. But our lives change over time. And the things, if we buy quality things that last, they're going to be with us over time. Now, we still have to be very careful in what we buy. Okay, because it costs to store things. It costs time, money, and effort to maintain things. Things have a cost besides their monetary, what we pay for. And unfortunately, so many of us don't realize that until it's too late. But if we combine those, I think that's the answer to the work-life balance. Put in the work early and then plan for it as you're buying things. And this is the best example I can think of right here. I had a friend named Russell. Okay, he passed away some years ago, but really good friend. And we were friends for a long time. Okay, well, he was a year ahead of me in high school. He graduated first, and he went and got his first real job, making good money. And he knew he was going to be there a long time. He enjoyed the job. So he went and bought a brand new bass boat. And it was nice. It was a pretty boat, a cranberry. Okay. He was excited. Our little group of friends, we hunted and fished. Okay, so we're excited because he needed somebody to go fishing with him. We could all finally go fish the big lakes. Okay, so some years go by, and Russell, he didn't have a shed to put the boat in. He had a boat cover for it. Problem with boat covers is eventually they tear, they get holes in them, they leak, they fall down, fill up with water. They're not a permanent solution. Okay, then Russell, over the years, he grows up, marriage, kids, his priorities changed. Well, that water getting inside the boat, it eventually rotted the floors out in his boat. And it was, the boat just went downhill quick after that. And when he finally sold it, I think the motor had about gone in it, and it was worth almost nothing. Okay, and at that point, because he had, wife and kids and all that, different financial situation, he couldn't just go buy another bass boat, plus inflation. Okay, at that time, I think it was about $18,000, $19,000 for that boat, which was a lot of money then. We're talking early mid-90s, 93, 94, somewhere around there. Well, that same boat now, which Ranger doesn't even make a fiberglass boat that length anymore. I think that was 17 and a half. Anyway, you're going to pay 50 or 60,000 for that boat now, fiberglass. Okay, if Russell had had long term in mind, it had a shed for the boat, which my daddy's cousin, I've said this before, he's got a saying, if you can't afford a shed for your boat, you can't afford the boat. And I'm such a firm believer in that because of what I saw with Russell. But if Russell had had a shed for that boat, if he were here now, he would still be using that boat, and it would still be gorgeous. It would still be a great boat. And had he ever made it to retirement, which that freedom thing, that's the motivation why we all want to reach retirement. But anyway, had he made it to retirement, he'd have still had that boat. It still would have looked new. He might be on a second or third motor by now, outboard. All right, you get the old one rebuilt if it goes, or get a new one. He'd probably have had it recarpeted 2 or 3 times by now, but it would still look brand new. All right, so what he always wanted was a boat. And had he been able to take care of it, and he fished even up until the day he died. All right, so he still loved fishing, but he couldn't fish in a nice fiberglass boat anymore. He just couldn't afford that anymore. All right. That's what I mean by material maximalism. If we plan for this early in life, okay, I'm going to get the boat. I fish. I love fishing. All right, I'm going to take care of it. All right, what if we apply this to everything? And here's the thing, too, about hobbies. And this is why I guess this kind of gets complicated. But when we're actually doing the things we enjoy doing, whatever your hobby is, playing golf, woodworking, fishing, hunting, cooking in the kitchen, pottery, whatever. When we're actually doing those things, we're not buying stuff. We can spend a fortune on fishing. You can spend absolutely as much as you want to fishing with a new boat and tackle and lures, but I realized years ago when I was fishing, I wasn't spending money. I was fishing. You can't spend money when you're out there fishing. And when you're really into something, you realize when you're really into it, you know that most of what the ads, marketing and so forth, it's just that, it's marketing. What brings you enjoyment and what's actually going to make you better at whatever is spending the time and work doing it. Okay, so it's important for us to do things because, again, when we're doing them, we realize that. When we're stuck at work wishing we were doing those things and dreaming about doing those things, that's when the marketing starts really working on us. And okay, maybe these new golf clubs are going to help me hit the ball better. Maybe this new bass boat is going to help me catch more fish. And that one day off in the future, when I can go hike the Appalachian Trail, all of this stuff will help me. That's when we're on the hedonistic treadmill. When we're actually doing those things, we're not. A real good golfer, they understand the only thing that's going to make them better is practice. A really good fisherman, they know the only thing that's going to make them better is time on the water. Now, I apologize for not being able to explain this better, but there are a lot of moving parts here. Hopefully, over time, as I think about this more, I will get better at explaining this in a clearer, more concise way. Okay, but essentially, this all just comes down to time, which is, at the end of the day, really probably the most valuable thing we have. And we don't appreciate it till it starts getting gone. All right, and we spend our time to make money to buy material things. But, and this is the material maximalism, if we buy quality things that last, and we only have to spend that time to buy them once. Okay, it doesn't have to be like it is now where we just constantly work all the time. All right, so just another way of thinking about that. And I think this is also where Christianity comes in. It's all about being balanced. Anything in life, if we carry it to the extreme, is going to turn out bad. Compassion. Okay, you carry it to the extreme and you end up with all of the woke crazy stuff. Self-interest. Carry it to the extreme and you end up with really bad stuff there. Okay, if we maintain that balance. Christ said, love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay, that helps us keep a balance right there if we just apply that to how we deal with other people. If someone's doing bad things and they want your help, okay, if that were you, what would you do? Love them as yourself. Do they need to learn a lesson first before you help them? If that were you, would you hope that somebody would want you to learn a lesson first before they helped you? Balance. And then I think that's how we end up with that work-life balance that everybody talks about, because there's a spiritual aspect to all of this also. We're only here once. Let's enjoy it. Let's just enjoy every minute of it and be thankful for all of it. Anyway, I hope that gives you something to think about. God bless and have a great day.